Welcome back to our discussion. I want to ask our two leadership folks, you were able to listen to a large part of the conversation, and I just wanted to get your take on whether you think we're really doing the job we need to do right now, addressing youth mental health.
We are concerned about there being a lot of programs in the state for behavioral health for kids, and certainly in the community and in the schools, but a lot of it is disconnected. I think many of you mentioned in your conversation earlier about the school identifying something that is potentially a problem with a child or their family or whatever situation they're experiencing, but then do they have the connection back into the community to be able to get the services they need?
Even though we have a number of school-based health centers, we're not everywhere. And I think where we have strategically placed school-based health centers in, specifically in middle and high schools is really a good thing for our state, because that's traditionally the age that's not going to show up in medical care offices on a more regular basis, and so preventive care is really something that the school-based health centers have an opportunity to do. There are a lot of community-based services out there too, and we know that they're working in schools, but I agree with Diana, it's not well linked. I mean, we don't have a way of really sort of pulling that all together so that we know what's working well, what's not working so well, and where are some of our gaps.
Is it a matter of more funding, or is it a matter of more coordination? I mean, I know some of these school-based health centers are great, but they're not open every day. Mm-hmm. As they mentioned, their caseloads are ridiculous. They're not open in the summer.
We definitely are underfunded in terms of school health. There's a lot of pressure, I think, on schools to address all these issues too, and it's not just a school problem. I mean, it is a community issue. And there's some efforts that are going on around the community schools movement, for example, where we're talking about, how do you build a community school that has three major components: school-based health care, before and after school alliances and good services, plus also parent and community engagement. But in order to do that, you really have to have some good coordination to pull all those people together so that everybody could be on the same page.
How much funding have we lost?
The prevention dollars, we definitely have lost them. But I would also say that we also had some infusion of grant dollars and at the federal level, but they were done in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. So right now, the collaborative, one of the initiatives we have for this year is to map prevention services and treatment services across the state that's being funded at the local level that we may not even be aware of, so that we can at least identify that funding source, but identify the services being offered.
What do prevention programs look like? Because I personally was struck by Letitia's story. You attempted suicide a number of times when you were quite young.
Yes.
Did anybody know about that? Did you show obvious signs of this?
I was a cutter. Most of the time on my legs, other times on my arms. When I wanted somebody to know, I'd kind of make it visible. Like, I want to ask for help, but I don't want it to be obvious, so like maybe if they saw something, then maybe they'd help me. But most of the time they didn't notice, and there weren't many prevention programs available at the time.
What would have helped you?
Well, basically what we do in the Youth Advisory Group is going and talking to younger kids and telling them that it's okay if you're experiencing this, you're not alone. This isn't the first time this has happened to somebody, but there is help. I didn't want to go to the Behavioral Health Center because it was apart from all the schools, and it's at the Social Services Center. And pretty much if you go there, everybody would know by the next day that you're having this issue, and this issue, and so it's easier
if it's at the school.
It is easier if it is.
When you talk about prevention, Diana, what does it look like?
I think it's teaching our loved ones, our communities, what crisis looks like, what cutting looks like, what a person in crisis or on the verge of crisis may look like. We are working on mental health first aid training across the state as well. It's training folks, first responders, but also certainly teachers, everyone who has a lot of access to the public, including even family members. What does that look like? How can I get this person help before they're in crisis? And we are preventing or intervening intervening before a crisis. We did also just establish a New Mexico crisis line, 855-NM crisis, and it is basically set up to get in touch with a mental health professional 24/7. They connect you, refer you to services in your local community. But one other thing that this does that wasn't done before is it does connect also to a care coordinator with Optum Health. Bottom line is we don't know when they're going to get those services. Is it going to be 24 hours? Is it going to be 7 days? Is it going to be 6 weeks? And this care coordinator can make sure that that person also gets that warm handoff to a professional.
That's one of my questions. Is there, even if we can get people to recognize signs and refer, what does the ecosystem look like in terms of care?
That's to me is a problem, because you can identify kids, but then you have to make sure that you have a system in which to refer them, and a competent system. And I think that's a difficulty. I think especially in rural areas, trying to find those people who you can refer to and that they get seen. I mean, when you have somebody who's in crisis, well, yes, you can take them by ambulance up to UNM, et cetera, to Caseman. But basically, if you need them to get in somewhere, sometimes you just can't get them in, be it insurance, be it the waiting line, transportation.
But I think part of what this speaks to is, you know, the need for some of these additional early intervention kinds of models, where the goal is to identify the issue before that young person even gets to crisis and needs a hospitalization. And so, but part of what that involves is a funding shift.
So funding shift from where, Steve?
Well, I think the issue is, you know, where are other dollars potentially going to come from around this? There are programs called the National Network of Child Psychiatry Access programs, where you have teams of mental health professionals backing up pediatricians in their practice. Those models are now in 26 states. And, you know, we're always saving for a rainy day, and I'm always wondering, you know, if it's pouring enough to be raining. And so I think part of the question becomes, you know, when do we do, I mean, we can't get to be 52nd because there's only 51. So, I mean, part of the question becomes, at what point is it enough?
Well, is it pouring now?
You know, well,
yes, you're nodding your head.
I mean, I think it is.
Well, you know, the recent tragic shootings in the last year are often by young people. I gather there's a slew of bills right now in the legislature. Do any of those have the potential to make things better or to make things worse?
We have some laws already on the books that we think need more education, such as treatment guardianship, that would actually help families and communities be able to identify problems earlier and get folks help a lot faster.
What is treatment guardianship?
It's basically identifying someone who probably needs treatment, but also oversight of that treatment before they are in crisis, and to some degree, though, the person may not be ready for that, ready to admit that they need help. But it's taking the evidence and with mental health professionals, obviously, as well, to a judge.
Yes, Jane.
I want to just say that I think that we have some opportunities with the national health reform movement to sort of look at a different model. So we have some large health systems in Albuquerque, for example, that really do very little for adolescents. So how can we start looking at creating more of a partnership between schools and health systems, where there really is some resource provided there? Because these are services to kids, by and large, many of them reimbursable through traditional insurance mechanisms. Why are we not being more effective at getting care into schools and getting our health system to be a little more, sort of looking a little more broadly at what their role is? I think maybe part of it comes from this notion that teenagers are healthy. They're not showing up, you know, they're not on our doorstep unless they're pregnant or in a car accident. And so therefore we don't really put out for them. We don't really take care of them.
So I think the things that we've looked at that have been really helpful are things like peer engagement. If we invested some energy and time in their skills around what they have as leaders for their own community of adolescents, they really can help us to identify those kids and to really help us identify and evaluate a system of care that would make sense for them.
Is that something you guys are looking at in your office?
We have some funding that goes out to some school communities to develop what we call peer-to-peer groups. Most of our peer-to-peer groups are based in places where we have school-based health centers, which makes a little bit of sense because we also know that we're going to have some linkage or some way back for them to get some support for the services that they see or they identify.
At Cleveland, we have a lot of kids who are going to the elementary schools and they're mentors and they're working in the classrooms. A lot of times, little ones really respond to high school and mid-school, and they will tell a teenager, or they will tell somebody a little older, much more about what's going on for them than an adult. You know, unless you're really good at it. But I think it's good for both because it's very cathartic for a teenager to be the expert, kind of, and been there, done that. I know how hard this is.
From our suicide prevention work, we built into our piece pushing for more peer-to-peer work. We've traditionally have done most of our work in the high school level, but we're trying to now work with like a middle school level and see how that might work. From our perspective, I mean, in just a couple of the communities, I was thinking of Pewaukee specifically, where we started out, gosh, when I first came here, there was a cluster in Pewaukee that was real significant, and
a cluster of
suicide. And one of the first things we did was a peer-to-peer group there. And, you know, it took some time for it to take hold, but it has become institutionalized. Thank goodness for a good superintendent and, you know, school board that saw the results of that, because it really had some impact on school climate. It helped to reduce things like incidences of bullying. It helped to increase opportunities for identification. And we haven't had a completed suicide in Pewaukee. It doesn't mean that we haven't had attempts, though. I mean, we're still there. But it's changed that climate at that school, and it's changed the expectations, I think, of the adults and the students and the community, that one, the code of silence is broken, and that we're going to tell. I mean, we're going to identify you. If you're in crisis and you're in trouble, there is a way and there is going to be support for you.
Many of these behavioral health, mental health issues start in childhood. But that doesn't mean that they were born with it. And I think some of the examples that were mentioned today, it is as a consequence of some other social issues. You start looking at what are the roots of these problems, and whether it's obesity or whether it is the depression. And they're not always going to be medical. They're not going to be biological. And so more and more is important for the medical professionals or the health providers to really look at partnering with schools, with other entities, to address this collectively. Because I think that otherwise we're just going to be treating the problem once it's already there. And so I wonder, you know, what do we do about the alcoholism? What do we do about the sexual abuse? What are the roots of all of that? And these are not people who are necessarily born that way.
January 1st, 2014, Centennial Care, which is the Human Services Department here in New Mexico, revamp of Medicaid. There are 3 new services for behavioral health: recovery supports, family support services, and then also respite. And bottom line is, they may not be prevention, because obviously, you know, that there needs to be a diagnosis or an issue going on prior to that. But we do think that there are 3 new services that don't necessarily exist in our system right now that have a funding source. Let's teach our kids that it's okay to feel bad, but then talk about feeling bad, and then what do you do to feel better?
I want to circle back maybe to our young women here and to James. It's great to be able to voice that, but what do you do when the adults in your life freak out or behave badly when you bring up those realities?
Yeah, I'm actually glad that you brought that up, because I was going to bring that up as well, that you just wants to shut down. That means I should just be hiding what's going on even more, because obviously I can't bring this up to the adult because they're just going to yell at me. A lot of times it is that cry for help. You know, with what we've been talking about a lot is that better training. And I think we are getting a lot of that also in the media, especially in TV shows and movies, that I think mental health is being brought up in a more probably more professional way. It's not so stigmatic. It's not, oh, this person is crazy. It's, this person has a problem or an issue, and we're all trying to deal with it so we can be better with this. So I think media, in a way, is also helping many people to understand what's going on. So maybe they won't so much freak out. They'll be like, oh, maybe I should be helping instead of yelling.
Well, and I think it's like getting way back up, way upstream around just creating awareness, you know, around social emotional well-being, that everyone has the right to that. And we've all had issues in our families some way or another, and you know, I think what we have to start talking about is the resiliency of families to actually get through those things.
You know, one of the things that we've really been struck by is when young people and their immediate family are meeting with other families that are dealing with the same issue, the dialogue gets really different and really interesting, and the cross-generational dialogue can be very supportive and very effective, so that when your relative won't hear something from you, they might actually hear it from another young person that's faced the same issue, or you might be able to get through to some adult in someone else's family in a way that they haven't been able to. And so it's been really interesting to look at those kinds of models, and we don't bring in families into schools or other settings in those kinds of ways, but to some degree they've been very effective.
What do you all think of that? I mean, how did you find the courage to keep speaking out when the adults in your life were freaking out?
Well, actually, my father, he didn't freak out. My cuts are, well, very obvious. When I have a short sleeve shirt on, they come from up here all the way down, and they're over the years they've just built up, and it's hard not to notice. I don't know how my father didn't take me aside and ask, well, why are you doing this? I would have preferred him to freak out rather than just ignore it.
Mine was the complete opposite. The first time my mom saw the cuts on my arm, she flipped out bad. She was screaming at me, and then she like automatically started crying, and she's like, I'm such a terrible parent, and I'm like, don't say that. No, she's making me feel bad. And after that, like, that was the first and only time that I ever went to them and telling them that I need help. And after that, it's like, well, I kind of had a few friends then, so I tell them. And I think that's what a lot of youth do. They go to their peers first. They go to their friends. They don't go automatically to an adult, because adults may say something to somebody else.
So if we had all had magic wands and we could do one thing to make things better as we're wrapping up, we have some thoughts on that.
You know, I think we have to start with the realization that 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, depending on, you know, the statistics where you hear them from, youth have serious mental health issues, many that could be diagnosed. I think we've got to focus again on how do we get services to kids and how do we get them where kids are. And let's face it, New Mexico is a very rural state. Students in Laguna Acoma, students in Mountain Air don't have a lot access to services outside of that community. So when you can bring those services to the school, you're going to make a big difference. You're going to make an impact.
The really heartbreaking piece is somebody brings up a kid and they clearly need more service than we can provide at the school-based health center, and they don't have insurance. Oh, this girl who's at risk for whatever, but she doesn't have health insurance. So we'll have to bounce the ball as best we can with her during the school year, because we can't really get her the kind of services that she really needs. And that shouldn't happen for our kids.
Will the Centennial Care help that?
Nope.
Actually, the expansion population is mainly the adults, because a lot of children qualify right now. But I certainly would welcome having more conversations, because I think we're going to have some more flexibility. And I think, you know, certainly I get, Yolanda and I have talked about a few things, but we'd certainly like to expand that conversation, because I think we do need to be more creative with our dollars.
And I think the struggle is the schools, or again, sort of putting all of the responsibility on the schools, even for around like Medicaid or insurance eligibility determination and helping to find those pieces, there isn't really a structure for that much anymore as it used to be. We were talking with APS, for example. They used to have a whole cadre of people that could actually help families to get enrolled and to get insurance and to get those pieces. They're down to one person, and it's at the central office, and so that's not very helpful. So I think there is an opportunity, I think, to do more community engagement, whether it's community health workers or parent engagement, to really sort of pull together that community support also. Because I think, again, it's just not a school problem. The funding issue is tough. That's always going to be there. But I think the other issue that we can't leave off the table either is just a healthcare shortage in New Mexico.
Right. This is now on the national table for discussion. Right. Unfortunately, because of these shooting tragedies. Could something good happen out of this?
Well, my hope would be that, certainly some of the stigma issues would be directly addressed. There'd be more support for early identification in schools and more services in schools. And frankly, even those supports for young people with more serious illnesses. I think my fantasy is that we will then be able to, through those models, continue to see school-based health centers as very small integrated care sites that are critical and need to be developed, that will have more opportunities in primary care for early identification and have more backup of behavioral health linked to primary care supports. I think it is a focused shift in terms of how we do business. I know that, we do need to train our primary care folks to do a better job in terms of understanding the behavioral health issues. And my hope is that, with this transition, we'll at least have that opportunity in a more direct way.
And if we don't put those in place?
Maybe there will be a 50-second stay. I don't know. I mean, we have real concerns. Our kids need a great deal of support, as do our families, and the time is really now.
Many things that I hate about hearing about mass shootings is, one, that it is a horrible loss of life, and it's very, very tragic. But the next part from that is I know what the scapegoat is going to be, and it's going to be mental health. Everyone says video games, music, movies, gun control, but it always comes down to mental health and what was, seriously wrong with these people. So we get a national discussion on mental health, but a lot of times I think it gets more steered towards the stigma of the horribleness of mental health, the people that slipped through the cracks, the people that didn't have services. A lot of times it's we need preventative care instead of preventative care, and I think we get preventative care with mass shootings because now we're trying to figure it out after the horribleness has already taken place instead of stopping it before it could have taken place.
I think we need the dialogue around violence and at a much broader, deeper level, which is what you were responding, or what you had said earlier. So much of what we see in the school-based health center, anxiety, depression, PTSD, we can go, but it's way back here. It's the violence that was perpetrated on that child. And so I think we need a much larger discussion as a community, as a nation, about who we are and what are our priorities and what are our values.
All right.
I think the advocates this year have done a great job. There have been some bills in the legislature to support expanded behavioral health services and school-based health centers, and it's not looking very hopeful. So if that's what it looks like in the face of recent school shootings, in the face of being 50th in the country for many of these things, it's pretty discouraging.
It's hurricane-like. It's raining. It's raining.
And our legislature has not risen to the occasion.
Thank you all for coming and talking about this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.